What? All right. Thank you, Zach. Good to see everybody this morning. I'm not checking my Facebook. I've got verses that I'll find on my Bible on my phone, and I'll take a screenshot of them. And I can scroll through them real fast, and it's quicker to find them that way than to... Anyway, I want to read a couple of scriptures this morning first before we go to our text, but we're going to be in Philippians chapter 1 this morning. Let's go back there. But I want to read a couple of verses. Bear with me here. Okay. Philippians chapter 1. All right. All right, in Matthew chapter 22, verse 37, Jesus said this. He said, verse 36, somebody asked him and said, Master, which is the great commandment in the law? Jesus said unto him, Thou shalt love the Lord thy God with all thy heart, and with all thy soul, and with all thy mind. This is the first and great commandment, Jesus said. And then he said this, the second is like unto it, Thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself. On these two commandments hang all the law and the prophets. You know, there was things that Jesus said that incited a lot of ire towards him from the religious establishment, and this was one of the things that he said that really bent them, because their religion was the law. And he simplified it and said, I'm telling you, if you can get that one and that one, everything else will just follow suit. On all this hangs all the law and the prophets. We're going to talk about love again this morning, but in a little different direction. I want to talk about this. Does my love abound in the right way? All right? In Galatians chapter 5 and verse 22, familiar scripture. Does anybody know what that is? I love those questions when we're asked, and then everybody sits there and is like, I don't know, I don't want to say. But the fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, long-suffering, gentleness, goodness, faith, meekness, and temperance. Against such there is no law. Those things are not illegal in any way, in any culture, in any time or era. They're timeless, and they're always right. I'm getting to something with that, but those things are fruit of the Spirit of God living in a person. You could call them the fruit of righteousness too. Those things are effects of righteousness and of the Spirit of God. Now, in Philippians chapter 1, I'm going to read, starting in verse 9, okay? Paul said this, And this I pray, that your love may abound yet more and more in knowledge and in all judgment, that ye may approve things that are excellent, that ye may be sincere and without offense till the day of Christ, being filled with the fruits of righteousness which are by Jesus Christ, unto the glory and praise of God. All right, there's a lot of talk about love these days. We talk about it quite a bit. A lot of other people do too. And while it is in fact the center pin that everything hinges on, love, like everything God has created, it must dwell within the boundaries that He created for it. That's something that we need to never forget, is that everything God made, it has boundaries. You know, the whole concept or the idea of freedom in Christ, People take that and head a wrong direction with it, and there is no boundaries. They think that that tears down the fences and that they're free. But if everything's to be done decently and in order, then there has to be boundaries for everything. And we as human beings, we owe it to each other and to ourselves to establish and maintain good boundaries with each other, with our family, with everything and everybody, and everything we do in our life. But then we have a responsibility also to God for the things that we assimilate and take on into our life that He's provided for us, to honor the boundaries that He placed on those things. Those are His things. And we disrespect them and we dishonor them by taking them and just running wild with them. It's like going over to, I remember when I was a child and we'd go to Grandpa's house, Grandpa and Grandma's, and the way their house is laid out, a lot of you have been there. You can go in one room, into the bathroom, into their bedroom, back out into the living room, and it's a circle. What do kids like to do in the house? Why, I don't know. But they love to run in the house, and that was cardinal sin right there. Do not run in this house. Well, why not? There's a natural racetrack been built right here in the house. Why can't? No, because that was their house. And when you went there, you honored the boundaries that they put up in their home. It's good for kids to learn to honor the boundaries that someone else sets for their things. Well, it's just things, and they're just kids once. No, they're going to be adults someday that ain't going to know how to honor boundaries in anything or anybody's life, and they're going to be the ones out here burning their tires off in town, throwing rocks all over everything, ripping up and down the road, running over stop signs and mailboxes, and doing dumb things like that, just being a menace. Why? Nobody taught them boundaries. Boundaries are paramount to raising kids. Well, why has everything got to have a rule? Because everything has a boundary. You raise a child without the concept of there being some boundaries. You're going to have an anarchist on your hands real quick. And then someday you're going to have to take care of that little terrorist for the rest of their life. They will manipulate your life forever. I know people right now, that's their life. Their life is, all the air gets sucked out of their life by the terrorist that they raised. So boundaries are important. God's the author of boundaries. He's the one that established them. He did. Borders, what do you think where that concept came from? Boundaries. Why? Because it's important. It's important for peace and safety. It's important for honor and respect and keeping us all in line, because people in general are pretty ruthless and selfish. And so boundaries must be established. Those who would exercise love in their lives towards others in any capacity must also submit and subscribe to the responsibility of doing so correctly. Love is not exempt from this matter of boundary. They must do it correctly and do it by the boundaries and guidelines set forth by the author of love itself, and that would be the Lord. He said, if you're going to love, there's some rules about loving. And He said, you are to love the Lord your God with all your heart. We read it. And you're to love your neighbor as yourself. So I feel like by that scripture there, He's established that, look, there is nobody in this world that doesn't deserve some love. Okay, when He says there's things that God hates, it's things. Things. And it ain't people. Hate's, I remember being a kid and then, adults in my life, and you'd say, I hate this. And they'd say, hate's a mighty strong word. You be careful how you throw that word around and use that in your life about, I hate this, or I hate that, or I hate them, or I hate you. But if I said that to one of my siblings growing up, it was curtains. I hate you. No, the thunder would come down, because that's wrong. You should never hate. If that gets established in your psyche as a child, that it's okay to hate people, then you're going to grow up and hate people. You're going to treat them accordingly. How will you ever be able to love like God loved or understand His love for you if you harbor and give space in your mind and in your heart to hate people? No, hate evil. That's what you're to hate. Hate iniquity. Hate the things that dishonor your God. Hate the things that defy his boundaries and his laws. But understand that such were some of you, and that he can fix that. And you may well be called upon to love that person someday that you seem to despise. Paul was one of those people. Back when he was Saul of Tarsus, persecuting the church. And then he met the Lord and was converted. And it took the church a while to love him. Why? Well, they kind of hated him. And it's understandable. He was a formidable foe. He was scary. He was dangerous. And he followed through. He was zealous. And yet one day came when they were told, look, you accept him in. And they did. So, love is to be an ever-growing and developing thing in our life. Love is not just an ideology. It's not just this idea that we're supposed to have that kind of floats around in the ether of our mind as what we're to, almost like an identity and not something that gets put into practice. Okay? And if something's alive, then it's always growing and developing. If it's not, it's dying. Anything that stops growing starts to die. And love is something that must be nurtured and maintained and tended to and protected. And so, as a living thing, love is not the universal salve to be applied to everything, good or bad. Understand this. This is important. A lot of times, what you see, I don't want to get ahead of it. It's not to be applied to everything, good or bad, that makes bad things good and good things great. So, there's this idea, and I see it in, it's common amongst religious people, because no one that claims to love God ever wants to be identified as, by others, as someone who does not have love for others. It's kind of the theme as a Christian, is that you love people. But there has been, how can I word this right? Because of the wrong idea about what love is, there's been a major overkill in this matter of love, in the wrong idea of it. Instead of saying, look, I love you, but I don't condone what you do. There's just people that we quietly feel justified in hating. And then there's people that we love, but we also we justify, or we condone what they do even though it's not right. Because love. You see what I'm saying? I don't like using, more modern phrases and like buzz phrases and things that they use or whatever, but the old saying about love the sinner, hate the sin. Well, a lot of times everybody loves the sinner and they dismiss the sin because anything condemning of their lifestyle or what they do or whatever looks like judgment. Can't be judging. Judge not. Or condemnation of their life, of what they do is considered, like now, hate speech, hate crime, all that kind of stuff. You see it being woven into our culture now, legally and everything. So there's this quiet fear that if you don't love the way they say you should love, then you hate. If you don't love the way they say you should, then you're a hypocrite. If you don't love the way they say you should, then you're a legalist, and they have all kinds of different things they like to call you. But Jesus said that we are to love others like he's loved us. And we've examined how he loves us. And does he condone our sin? Absolutely not. Does he love us? Yes, for God so loved the whole world. So no one was exempt from that part. But the whole matter of what we do is not included with under the banner of love. You understand? Am I explaining myself in a way that's understandable? Along with the desire to love truly comes the personal responsibility each and every one of us have to handle love and manage love in a way that God is honored through it. Okay? You can claim to be religious, claim to be a Christian, and just be ate plumb up with love for everyone. And yet at the same time take a completely benign position on sin. You really can. Somebody who their first foot forward is, I love you. But then there is no kind of boundary with that love concerning sin. Yes. That's not God's love. That's your love. That's why later on in our scripture here where it says, being filled with the fruits of righteousness which are by Jesus Christ. Okay? What's the first fruit of the Spirit? Love. And that's by Jesus Christ. Okay? So it has to be His kind of love. And we need to be careful that in our attempt and in our zeal to be more loving, and we should, we don't overlook the fact of why He died in the first place. He loved us, and He died for us because He loved us so much. Why? So we could be free from the bondage of sin, which was the problem from the beginning. It was the problem to begin with. And that gets obscured by love. Because love is so big. Well, do you see what the world has done with that perception of love? The Sodomites have taken and ran with it rampantly. Love is love. Love wins. Blah, blah, blah. Well, what about the boundaries? What about God? Well, they don't honor Him. They don't love Him. They do hate Him. So they want to hijack love and take that from Him and make it their own thing. Throw Him away because in our love there is no condemnation, see. So our love's better. And that concept of love, that idea, has been by Satan slowly woven into the fabric of our culture through the school system, through Hollywood and media, social media, and just the constant barrage of that propaganda into the minds of the last couple or 3 generations, really. Till now, when you talk to young people and ask them to define love for you, that is their definition of love. And it doesn't mean that they're coming from a nefarious place and hating God. No, that's how they understand it, because that's how culture gets changed. That's how the truth gets diluted or changed completely. Look, the devil plays the long con. He ain't got nothing but time. So he plays the long con. He's a progressive. Satan is a progressive. That's why when you hear them bragging about being progressive Democrats or whatever they add that progressive term to, if it starts with that, bad. It's bad. It's wrong. I promise you it's full of heresy. You better, red flags. Progressivism is of Satan. Because it means we're going to change what you think is right to what we think is right. And we don't care if it happens to your great-great-great-grandchildren. We're kicking the can down the road. That's what progressivism is. They're doing their part in their generation to change the future. And they fly that flag as if it's an honorable thing. Do you realize churches are doing this too? With this matter right here. Because it gets a crowd. Churches is full of people who embrace love as this all-inclusive, no condemnation thing. And it's poison. And it's going to it will usher our grandchildren out of church, out of spiritual anything, into idolatry. And it has. Look around you. It's what's happened to our society. Love is to abound in 2 specific things first. Before it can be what it's supposed to be within the boundaries God has set. This is the first 2 boundaries This is what they are. They're to abound in two specific things in us first before it just exists in us in excess for anything and everything. It has to start with some boundaries, some guidelines. Let me see if I can find where I saved. I guess not. Surely I did. Well, let's see here. Let me find it here. And this I pray, verse 9, what he said, "And this I pray, that your love may abound yet more and more." Does it sound like there is a finish line in that statement right there? Abound more and more. You know what the definition of abound is, okay? It is this: to have or possess in great quantity. To be copiously supplied. So, your love, he said, I pray that your love may abound. Yet more and more in what two things? Knowledge and judgment. Knowledge and judgment is the box that love comes in. It's the house that it lives in, always. It never leaves that place without it turning into something else. Always. If we can ever wrap our minds around that simple concept and keep it simple, just keep love simple. Knowledge, judgment. Well, that sounds kind of negative, doesn't it? Well, take a step back, throw away the world's filter about those words. Let's look at it for a second. Knowledge means this: a clear and certain perception of that which exists, or of truth and fact. The perception of the connection and agreement or disagreement and repugnancy of our ideas. Do you know what repugnancy means? It means opposite to, contrary to, inconsistent to our ideas. So knowledge is truth versus what you think truth is, in more modern terms, okay? There is what you think is true and real, and some of it very well may be. You spend a lifetime in pursuit of the truth, you'll find it. God said so. But there's a lot of stuff, even in my own mind, that I still keep finding that I thought was true, and it is not. That I thought I was right about, and I was not. That I've lived for 30 years with that being my baseline of like my foundational stuff. It wasn't right. There's a it's kind of a double-edged sword, this matter of truth and establishing it. That's why this has to be where your truth is established. Because I change, you change, she changes, we all change, but this doesn't. And you can get the wrong idea when you're young, and that can make you wrong all your life. And then everything that you decide based on that thing that you think you know that's right, but it ain't, all that's wrong too. And so you wake up 30 years later and you're looking around at the destruction around you and you're like, I've done everything right. How come this is all happening? Well, that math don't math out. I mean, God, there are things that will be revealed in time, but they're not pertinent to us actually being able to live up to the expectation that he asked us to do. He wouldn't ask us to do something we can't. And so that would mean, because we are pretty simple binary creatures, that what he's asked us to do is not complicated, or at least not complicated to understand. Okay? So, that your love may abound yet more and more in knowledge. Well, what that means is this. You don't know everything about love, and neither do I. But we ought to be trying to. We ought to be pursuing it, and we ought to be, that ought to be something, when you think about love and what role it plays in your life, my life, and how it flows through you out to others, it always ought to be under construction. It should. If you ever get to a place where you don't tend to it anymore, what did I say at the beginning? If something's not being tended to and growing, what's it doing? It's dying. and it will wither. It'll start to become complacent. Then it will start to become truly judgmental in the worldly sense of it, and then it will turn to bitterness. I've seen it through my life. I've seen people who once loved and seen them become bitter. And bitterness is the vine that chokes everything, like kudzu. It just wraps itself around it all and chokes out the host until it's dead. And then there's just nothing but the bitterness. You can strip it all away and there's nothing left underneath it. It's just dead. Everything's dead. And I've seen it do it to people's lives. Started out as love, right? Nah. By some people's definition, yeah. But it didn't end that way. And that's what this is about right here. That's why it's important to understand this. To love like God does is not to love blindly. Yes. We're not commanded to just blanket application, cover our eyes, and just say, I love everything. I love everybody. Love just exudes out of me, for everything, everyone. No, because he said knowledge and judgment. Does that mean I condemn you? He didn't say knowledge and condemnation. No, he said knowledge and judgment. I get tired of all of the negativity that surrounds common English words because people don't take the time to understand the language they speak. And I'm guilty of this too. It's why definitions of words, you hear me talk about them a lot, because it's something so simple that Satan has just had no contest to just change everything in our culture, because we don't think they mean what they do mean. Knowledge and judgment. To love like God does is not to love blindly. To have love for all isn't the same as having love for everything. Most times these two are treated as synonymous. I love everybody and everything. No, they're not synonymous. They're not the same thing. Handling love first with knowledge will then demand that you have to make that judgment call as to whether this certain thing, not this certain person, but this certain thing, deserves the favor of love or not. You can take someone who is a despicable person, does horrible things, and you can win them to the right with love. But not if you condone their wickedness while you're loving them to Jesus. They will not respect you, and they will not respect your Jesus if you condone their sin whilst trying to love them to the foot of the cross. It doesn't work that way. Case in point, parents have a child. They say, we'll never spank our kid because we love them too much to paddle their rear end. Okay, do what you want. And it's kind of one of the mysteries of life to me, because I hated to whip my kids. Hated it. But I'm glad that I did when they were little. And I watched it in other people's lives where they refuse to do it because I love them, and that's not how you show love. Well, no. Here's the thing. At the moment, does it seem like love? Not to them, that's for sure. And it doesn't make you feel very loving either. It's rough on a parent. It takes a lot of determination and the long view to follow through with that difficult task. But here's the deal. The people who will not discipline their children in that way, the child grows, and I've seen it it's the same pattern it always follows. They love them too much to punish them for things, and they show them their love by showering them with favor and gifts and all, and what always winds up happening? Tell me. That kid grows up and hates their parents. Why? They have no respect for them. Why? Because their love had no boundaries. It was their version of love. Love that has no boundaries always will circle back and give you something in return. It's done with selfish intent. Why would someone not want to chastise their child? Because it hurts me. It's too hard. It breaks my heart. It makes me feel like this big. It makes me feel like an abuser and all this stuff. Well, I get it. I've lived it. I know. But who's it benefiting? You. Now. What's it doing to the child? Damning them to hell in the long run. They're going to grow up and not know any boundaries for anything. If your love as a parent is established in their hearts as saying, hey, it has boundaries. My love for you will never die. It is unconditional. But here are the boundaries. Boundaries are not conditions. They're just boundaries. You can love someone unconditionally and maintain the boundaries of love. You must. That's why you can have a child that could be a murderer and you still love them. But they're going to go to prison. And you will not contest that. Because love has boundaries. It does. And if you say, no, I love them. They're really a good boy. Well, no, they're not. They're a murderer. They killed someone else's boy. So do you love you or do you love love? Do you love God and His boundaries for His love? The kind of love we're all supposed to have. For our children, for our church, for each other, for our God. All right. Love abounding, ever growing in knowledge and judgment is necessary for love to grow from, because of two specific things that will greatly affect love's influence and its fruit. So we can approve of things that are excellent, it says, that ye may approve things that are excellent. Excellent. Excellent means being of great virtue, value, or worth. Doesn't mean perfect. Doesn't mean the best of everything only. It just means that. It's of great virtue and value and worth. Okay? Love will approve of those things of great virtue. Virtue. And value. So if you love someone and the things they're doing are not virtuous or of great value or worth, are you to love those things too? No. No. It says that you may approve the things that are excellent. Those are the things you're to love. Now, listen, this takes discernment. It takes judgment. That's why it's important for us to have a firm handle on the idea of what judgment's supposed to look like coming from us and handle it within the boundaries God's established. If I meet a man and he is, seems to be like a pretty good guy, he has potential in this life. And I know that God loves him and He died for him just like He did for me. But this man's deeds, the things he does, they ain't all excellent. But some of them are. Am I to throw it all out with the bathwater? No. But here's the thing. You can love that man. You can love that person. And not condemn the excellence that you see in them without compromising the boundaries of love. It takes some judgment. If all you ever focus on in some sinful person is the good things about them, then they're never going to feel that condemned about their sin. But if all you ever do is rail on them or borderline low-key hate them for their evil deeds, are they ever going to feel like you see anything good in them and therefore think that God sees anything good in them? No, they won't. That's where love comes in. And that's where, look, Jesus went to that woman at the well in Samaria. He's seen something good in her. But what was she? Well, she was sinful. He didn't condone that. He brought it out. He did not condone it. But He said, look, I've got something for you that will satisfy this thing that you keep living this sinful life in pursuit of. And He was able to. So she seen that He was willing to step across racial lines, prejudice lines. Samaritans and Jews didn't talk to each other. They hated each other. They were very racist against each other. And he was willing to lay that aside. It wasn't an issue for him. And then he didn't shy away from her because of her sin either. He didn't condone it. That wasn't the message she got through his love shown towards her that day. What did she go back and tell everybody? Come see a man that told me everything I ever done. Fixed it. Love. That kind of love. Do you see where there was redemption through his love without the condoning of the sin? That's it. That is the key. So, and it says this, that ye may approve things that are excellent, and that ye may be sincere. That's what she's seen in him, the sincerity. Sincerity is transparent. It's not veiled as something else. Okay? And without offense, he says, till the day of Christ. Without offense, in these matters, it says, it's not getting it right and then wrong, then right and then wrong, vacillating on this and never being established in this matter of your sincerity. Okay? Because, it really screams of hypocrisy when one day you love everybody and the next day you can't stand nobody. Or you'll help this guy, but you won't help that person because of what you have determined through your judgment. You see? And without offense can also be applied in this sense. Love, sincerely, even in the parameters and context God's word has laid out for us here, can and is totally capable of being exercised without being offensive or hurtful or damaging. Think about when Nicodemus came to Jesus by night because he was afraid of his peers. Jesus didn't take offense to that. And he explained to him and he said, you must be born again. And Nicodemus totally did not get it. And so he wasn't insulting to him. He just explained it to him. Someone who should have understood, but he didn't. And Jesus didn't offend him with his love. He didn't say, well, what are you, dumb? How are you chief of all the Pharisees and you don't understand this? What have you been doing all your life? He didn't do that. His love wasn't offensive. Wasn't offensive. Being filled with the fruits of righteousness, and I'm done. This includes all the character traits flowing from a right relationship with God. Just like we read at the beginning of what the fruit of the Spirit is. When we love God the right way, it provokes and produces godly actions in us. You don't do these things to be godly. You do these things because you are godly. You understand? The fruit of righteousness involves more than just kindness to other believers. And that's where most people's love ends. Listen to it. I seen a reel this week, and it was a woman who was calling churches asking if they could help because she had an infant. It was all made up, but it was just to prove a point. Calling these big churches, trying to talk to somebody, saying, look, I don't need a bunch of money. I just need a small can of formula to get me through for a couple of days because my baby, we're out, and she's been out of formula since last night. You know how many responses she got that said, we only offer assistance like that to our members? Most of them. Most of her responses from these big churches that have hundreds of thousands of dollars in the bank wouldn't say, somebody will be down there in a minute and we'll go and get you a can of formula. Nope. Just for our members. What? Yeah. Is that the fruit of righteousness? No, it's not. It's not. That love that they tout out there serves them. Fills up their church, fills up their offering plates, fills up their roster, fills up their reputation in the community. But hey, remember what I've always told the kids? Remember, hypocrisy has a real short shelf life. It putrefies quickly. It's not sustainable. And it requires integrity in such areas as our financial matters. Okay? The fruits of righteousness require this integrity in our finances, in our speech, in matters of our family. You see somebody who claims to love God and their life is all about the love of Christ, and their entire family hates them. Something's wrong. Something ain't right. Not saying they don't love God, but they don't understand some things. They're not, the fruit of righteousness produces love and joy and peace. And their love isn't. So something ain't right. And if it's that way with you, something ain't right. If it's that way with me, I need to take a step back and go back to school for a while. So, and in relationships with all kinds of people. I'm going to read this little quote that I seen here, and I'll be done. But I want you to think about this. If God loved us the way we understand love and love other people, how would that relationship work? A God who is all love, all grace, all mercy, with no sovereignty and no justice and no holiness and no wrath, is an idol. He's an idol. And people have made love an idol. It's all grace and it's all mercy. There is no sovereignty because they control it. See, God is sovereign because he controls him. He's king, not us. And they control that love. There's no holiness in it because they decide who gets it and who don't. Not God. He don't decide that for them. They do. And there's no wrath because that's judging. It's an idol. So, does my love abound in the right things? Or have I made love an idol in my life? It's a good question we need to ask ourselves, okay? All right. We're done.